It is a Bears Now mailbag. I am Harrison Graham. Let's kick things off with Miles here. He says, can the Packers game determine the fate of Matt Eberflus, Justin Fields, and or Luke Getsy? It's an interesting question, Miles. I mean, it's like a micro, macro thing. Like, you would think big picture, like, one game isn't going to, like, outweigh everything else, right? Like, one awesome or awful game from Justin Fields isn't going to outweigh 30 games of, tape watching and evaluation. But I do think this could be a game that carries more weight than others, right? Like, I do think Sunday matters, and here's why. If the Bears do beat the Packers on Sunday, they can take this resume to the front office. We beat the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers all in the final 7 weeks of the season. Should have beat Detroit another time. Could have beat Minnesota earlier in the year as well. So in 5 of your 6 divisional games, you could make the strong argument you outplayed the opponent. For sure in 4 of the 6, potentially 5 of the 6. The first Minnesota game is kind of 50-50. So if you win Sunday, that's a pretty strong thing to push in terms of the, hey, you should keep us and run it back if you're Getsy, Fields, and Flus. If you go out there, lay an egg, that's not a great look because you would have gotten swept by Green Bay. So Sunday's big. There's no doubt about it. Is it everything? No. Is it a bigger data point than other games? I would say so. You have a chance to knock a team out of the playoffs in a high-leverage game. I definitely think it matters. You guys know the motto. FGB. Doesn't matter what the stakes are. We're typing FGB 24/7, 365. So spam the comment section with FGB. You guys know the motto. Drake, Take Care album. The motto's FGB. Some super chats to get to. Shout out to Daily Basis. Appreciate the 5. He says, I will only accept drafting a quarterback in the first round if we reset the coaching staff. Please don't keep making the same mistake. Still think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the answer. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. a lot. I do think if you keep the same entire coaching staff, I would keep the quarterback as well. If you change coaches, I do think that probably leads to a more likely scenario that you change quarterbacks. So we'll have to wait and see. Matty Boy with the 5, run it back with Flus and Fields. Go grab the best OC you can find. This team should win at least 10 games next year. They should, Matty Boy. They should have won 10 this year. They're 3 fourth quarter collapses away from being 10-6 right now. If you win 2 of those, you're 9-7. Hell, if you win 1 of those, you're 8-8, and that's still a chance to make the playoffs this week. But you lost all 3 of them, which is unfortunate. But I'm with you. I think even if you just run it back with this same nucleus and add a few pieces, you should be a playoff team in 2024. Brian from earlier. Honestly, Bears let the season slip away. Let's not focus on the past. Crush Green Bay's playoff dreams and then trade the number 1 pick for a draft haul. 28-21 Bears. That's his prediction versus the Packers. We'll see, man. We'll see. If Justin Fields balls out, outplays Jordan Love, knocks him out of the playoffs, that's a good final impression for him to make his argument to stay. We'll see how it all plays out. Aaron Wolf, give Justin Fields weapons. Run everybody back next year. Add some tough draft picks. Let's ride the polls. If you trade the number 1 pick and get 3 firsts out of it, that's and potentially a player, that's going to be hard to not do. I will say that. If you're not doing that and you draft a quarterback, you better be completely convinced that quarterback's going to be incredibly big time. John with the 5, appreciate it. If we keep Fields, if we lose, don't keep him because FGB. Get the FGBs going in the chat for John. Shout out to John. He's putting it all in the game. If they win, keep Fields. If they lose, don't keep him. All in this game. Love it, John. Paul Brusca, do you think trading down once, drafting Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors, trading down again from your Bears' own pick, acquiring a second, then drafting a QB, would Justin Fields be okay? I don't want to speculate on what Justin Fields would or wouldn't like. I mean, I think if they drafted a quarterback fairly high, he would, take that as a message. It's like, oh, okay, that may not be great for my future here. But I do think the scenario of taking a quarterback on day 2 could make some sense. It worked out for Philadelphia, not necessarily for Carson Wentz. He didn't handle it well, but you're kind of hedging a bit, right? Like, hey, we're not going to take a QB number 1. We're going to trade it for more capital, but we are going to bring a talented player in here just in case Justin Fields does not work. All right, Gametime, today's sponsor. If you're looking for last-minute tickets, if you want to make the Sunday trip to Lambeau Field, make that drive up north, then, well, you're not going to find a better ticketing option than you are with Game Time. The best tickets for the best prices available at Game Time. Buying tickets to a sporting event, a concert, or comedy show, it shouldn't be stressful. It shouldn't be frustrating. It should be easy. It should be painless. And with Game Time, it is. You can see the different vantage points when you use the Game Time app. They're going to show you exactly where you're going to be sitting, and that's valuable, especially when you go to a stadium you may not be familiar with. Maybe you've never gone up to Lambeau, and these photos are going to be like, okay, this is exactly what my vantage point is going to be. So that's a pretty good deal. So check that out today. Also, if you're looking to go to a Bulls game, a lot of home games coming up here on the schedule, and get into the arena for pretty cheap at a lot of these. Create an account today. Download the Game Time app at your app store. Search Game Time. There's also a link in the chat you can click, and then use promo code BEARSCHAT when you create that account today. That's going to get you $20 off. Last-minute tickets for the lowest price guarantee with Game Time. It's promo code BEARSCHAT once you create an account with Game Time, so download the app today. Link is in the comments and in the description. Apollo, I'm on the keep Justin Fields bus, but any notable free agents to target this offseason? Go check out our free agent targets video, Apollo, from a month or two ago, but we'll definitely do an updated list once the regular season ends, probably sometime next week, if not the week after. Lots of draft and free agency content coming up, so be sure to subscribe. David, if we trade down to 5 through 9, I like Chop Robinson and Malik Neighbors, but what are your thoughts on Xavier Legette, the South Carolina receiver, DK 2.0? Similar build, big, fast, tough. I want to see how he tests at the combine, David. It's going to be interesting, but I do think he's a guy that could rise up boards. He's got some intriguing physical attributes. Got Brian next. What are the odds we extend Jalen Johnson? He's earned it, and this defense has gelled. Why mess with a good team? A good thing. I think there's a good chance. Worst case, you got the franchise tag, so I think the Bears are in a great chance. Appreciate the donation, Brian. Harry, if we get blown out by the Packers, I'm ready to clean house. Yeah, I mean, look, the general consensus heading into this game is that Matt Eberflus is safe. I do wonder if that could change if you go up there and get drilled by Green Bay, because if you're Ryan Poles, you could look at this in this way of, hey, you started the season not ready to go against Green Bay, you ended the season not ready to go against Green Bay. Two important games for this team, for this franchise, for this fan base, and you didn't show up. So, yeah, I think a blowout could change things. I think if they go up and compete and lose, I think Flus is probably safe. Maybe Getsy is on the way out. But, yeah, it'll be interesting, Harry. You definitely can't no-show in this game. This is an important game. Jake with the 5, do you think we should draft offensive line instead of edge in the first round or try to get veteran O-line in free agency? Definitely need a center. Yeah, I mean, there's no one in this draft at center you would take in the first round. Like the round one offensive linemen or tackles, you got Joe Wall, Olu Fashanu, J.C. Latham out of Alabama. But I also think that Braxton Jones has shown enough that you don't need to take a tackle early. You can roll with him and Darnell Wright. But yeah, you got to get a center, whether it's in free agency or in the draft. Middle rounds in the draft, second, third, fourth, or you could go free agency. Predict the score, Bears versus Packers at Lambeau Field this Sunday. Get those score predictions in, and let us know who's going to win this football game. I'm going Bears 24-23. Got James Graver, hire an offensive coordinator that really wants to work with Justin Fields. Let him be him. DJ Marvin Harrison signed a big-time defensive end. Yeah, I do think, like, if I had to make a free agency prediction right now, if they throw out a big contract, I think it's going to be for a defensive lineman. I think, does Josh Allen of the Jaguars hit free agency? Does Brian Burns? I mean, you look at Danielle Hunter in Minnesota. They can't franchise tag him. So if they can't come to terms, could you go out and get him to pair with Montez Sweat? So a lot of good defensive linemen hitting the open market, and I do think Poles will probably throw some money out there. David, #Bears, appreciate it, brother. What do you think will happen to Fields if Harbaugh becomes the head coach? I don't know. I think if you bring in Harbaugh, you give him a lot of say on who the quarterback is. Like, of course, Poles is going to have say, but that's got to be a collaborative effort if they do go the Harbaugh route. And I think you got to lean on his judgment in that situation, at least to a certain extent. Ron Winarski, if the Bears had Montez Sweat week 1, do you think the Bears would have made the playoffs? It's an intriguing question. I mean, I don't think it would have necessarily made a difference in that Packers game. You got blown out, but Bucs week 2 was winnable. Maybe it makes a difference in that game. Definitely makes a difference in that Denver game. And look, you really just needed to win one more game here to have a chance in week 18. So, I would say very potentially, Ron. We don't know for sure, but it definitely would have been a better chance. They've been a much better team since they made that move. Lacora, #Bears. Which team are the Bears most likely to trade the number 1 pick to? I'm looking at whoever gets the number 3 pick, if it's Washington or New England. Because if there is a gap among most teams from Caleb Williams and Drake May to the 3rd quarterback, well, if you're picking at 3, you got to move up to get Williams or May. So I think whoever's picking 3rd, unless it's Arizona, who probably won't draft a quarterback, I think that's probably the most likely team. But maybe it's a team like Vegas picking closer to 10. Maybe it's a team like Atlanta who's going to be picking, 8 to 12. So there's different routes. Obviously, they traded down to 9 last year with Carolina, so Poles is afraid to trade down that far. But I think the idea of trading down a couple of spots, getting Marvin Harrison Jr., that one's pretty intriguing to me. Henry Forte, Harrison, what position or players do you think the Bears draft most likely with the 2nd first-round pick? So let's just say, I'll just throw it out there. Bears get the 10th pick, right? That's where they sit right now with their own pick. They'll be picking anywhere from 8 to 13 with their own selection. That's locked in. And obviously, they have the 1st overall pick with Carolina, but you're talking about the Bears' own pick. I think that's in the range of like one of those secondary receivers maybe. I don't think Neighbors falls that far. Or Dunze. I think one of those is probably gone. Maybe the other one's still sitting there between 8 and 12. Brock Bowers is in that range. I also think that's the range for some of the edge rushers. Leatu Latu. You got Dallas Turner, Jared Verse. I think you're getting into the range of those guys. So I think that's potentially the type of prospect you're looking at. You could also trade up or trade down from that pick if you chose to do so. Tech is my life. Now that the season is practically over, what are your evaluations of Fields? One game isn't going to change much. You said it. My evaluation is that he's gotten better. I think you can win with him. Is he a quarterback I would give a long-term extension to this offseason? No. If I'm keeping him, I'm giving him the 5th-year option. I haven't made my final decision if I'm keeping him or drafting a QB. I'm probably leaning toward keeping him right now because of how much you could get with that 1st pick. Again, you don't have to give him a big deal right now. You've got the 5th-year option. You have 2 years of control with Justin Fields. So I'm leaning toward keeping him. But again, while I did say one game isn't going to change a ton, if he goes out there and either A, lights it up and dominates, or B, lays an egg and loses to the Packers again, especially that one, that could change the thinking of the decision makers and potentially myself as well. Patricia. Those happy dads are kicking in. $5 super chat. Do you think Ron Rivera would come back to be our defensive coordinator? Probably. I don't want him, though. I guess it's fine as long as Flus is calling the plays, which I said that on a video earlier as well. If you keep Matt Eberflus, he has to continue to call the defense. Period. End of story. He seemed open to that when asked about it recently, so I'm not too worried he would go back into CEO mode because his value as this team's head coach improved once he started calling plays because the defense got better. So I think that's got to be set in stone if you're going to go that route. All right, appreciate all the questions. If you have any more, hit me up on social media, Twitter, at HGramNFL. Same handle on Instagram if you want to hit me up over there, at HGramNFL. Appreciate you guys. Bear down.